In the bustling Agora of 5th century BCE Athens, Socrates, the gadfly of the city, engages citizens with his relentless dialectic questioning. Clad in his iconic ragged cloak, he challenges merchants and politicians alike, exposing contradictions in their beliefs. This public square, the heart of Athenian democracy, becomes the stage for his revolutionary method, seeking truth through dialogue. Historical accounts describe how his abrasive style both fascinated and infuriated, planting seeds for Western philosophy's future. Young Plato, an aristocratic 20-year-old in finely woven hemation, observes Socrates dismantling a general's argument about courage. The contrast is striking. Socrates' bare feet against Plato's leather sandals, the philosopher's probing questions versus the soldier's bluster. Xenophon's memoirs confirm this transformative moment. Plato burns his tragic poetry manuscripts the next day, choosing philosophy over political ambition. The student-teacher dynamic that would shape Western thought begins here, amid the smell of roasting meat and the Agora's din. Under ancient olive trees at sunset, Plato challenges Socrates' claim that virtue equals knowledge. Archaeological evidence from academy excavations suggests this location, where Plato later founded his school. The student argues that knowing justice doesn't guarantee acting justly, citing Alcibiades' betrayals. Socrates counters with his maieutic method, comparing moral ignorance to mathematical error. Their debate marks a pivotal shift. No longer just observer, Plato begins developing his theory of forms in response to Socrates' limitations. Eye-flickering lamplight, Plato transcribes Socrates' dialogue with Protagoras about relativism. Recent papyrus discoveries show Plato's edits, softening Socrates' irony, structuring arguments more logically. The camera reveals Socrates watching skeptically. He believed writing would atrophy memory and distort truth. Yet Plato's written dialogues, like the Meno, would eventually immortalize Socrates' voice while subtly advancing his own ideas. This tension between oral tradition and written philosophy becomes the medium for their intellectual evolution. In a borrowed villa's courtyard, Plato drafts his revolutionary Allegory of the Cave. Building on Socrates' sun metaphor in the Republic, he visualizes epistemology as prisoners, seeing only shadows, until philosophers guide them to reality's light. Analysis of Plato's original diagrams, preserved in the Villa of Papyri, shows his innovation, transforming Socratic questioning into systematic metaphysics. This represents their philosophical divergence. Socrates sought definitions. Plato constructed entire metaphysical realms. The year 399 BCE, Socrates stands trial for corrupting youth and impiety. Modern reconstructions of the Heliaea court show 501 jurors packed on wooden benches. Plato's Apology records Socrates' defiant stance, comparing himself to a gadfly stinging the lazy horse of Athens. The camera captures Plato, now 28, gripping the bench as his mentor rejects exile, choosing death over abandoning philosophy. This moment crystallizes Plato's disillusionment with Athenian democracy, later shaping his political theories. In the prison cell where archaeologists recently identified Socrates' actual confinement site, the philosopher drinks hemlock surrounded by weeping disciples. Plato's Phaedo immortalizes this moment, Socrates calmly discussing soul immortality while poison numbs his limbs. Forensic studies confirm the conium maculatum poison's effects match Plato's description, as Socrates' last words urge pursuit of truth. Plato's tear-streaked face shows the conflict between personal grief and philosophical duty to surpass his teacher. 12 years later, Plato establishes the academy near Athens' sacred olive grove. Excavations reveal lecture halls and mathematical diagrams in the original complex. Here, Plato systematizes philosophy, introducing structured curricula absent in Socrates' spontaneous dialogues. The camera pans over students debating geometry and ethics, showing how Plato institutionalized their shared pursuit. His innovations, written treatises, specialized studies, mark philosophy's transition from public discourse to academic discipline. In his 60s, Plato completes the Republic, expanding Socrates' fragmentary ideas into a comprehensive political theory. Analysis of the oldest surviving manuscript, Papyrus Oxyrhynchus 23, shows Plato's layered composition process. His philosopher-king concept builds on Socrates' ideal of knowledge-based virtue, but now demands rigorous 50-year training. The camera lingers on Plato's diagrams of the tripartite soul, a metaphysical framework surpassing Socrates' ethical inquiries, yet still rooted in their early debates. Aged Plato walks past the newly erected statues honoring him and Socrates. Archaeological evidence confirms such paired statues existed near the Academy. As sunset gilds the marble, he murmurs words preserved in Diogenes Laertius' Lives. Socrates gave us the questions. My task was to seek answers. The camera pulls back to show students continuing debates that began in the Agora, now formalized, yet still vibrant. Plato's legacy isn't surpassing Socrates, but transforming his method into an enduring intellectual tradition.